Hello, Nav Cavale here, plastic surgeon. Welcome to the Real Clinic podcast, sponsored by 42 South Films. This is where we take a behind-the-scenes look at the surgery industry, get to meet key players in the business, learn about setting up a clinic such as Real, and meet some of the best surgeons around. Welcome to another episode of the Real Clinic podcast with me, Nav Cavale, plastic surgeon here at Real Clinic. We're sponsored by 42 South Films, so thank you, Santiago and team. And today is going to be a good one, actually, and it's probably what certainly surgeons or potential clinic owners or combinations will want to hear about, which is insurance, both for your clinic and both in terms of your own med-mal cover. And my guest today is Tom Weiss from Scottvale Insurance Brokers. Tom and I have been working together for many years, both for my own insurance and more recently for insurance at the clinic. So I'm very pleased to have you here, very much looking forward to what you have to say, and very much welcome, Tom. Thank you for being here.
Hi, no, thanks for having us.
You've come all the way from
the
Isle of Wight.
From the Isle of Wight this morning. Yes,
yeah.
Especially for this. It's my first podcast, so wouldn't miss it for the world.
Thank you. No, it sounds like you've had quite a nice weekend.
We had a lovely weekend, yeah. That's why I've got a big colour. So, no, it's all good.
So let me just start off. It's the usual kind of, opening gambit question, as it were. It's like blind date, with Cilla Black. Tell me about yourself. What's your name? Where do you come from? Go as far back as you wish or as recent as you wish. So go on, tell me about yourself.
So I've been broking medical malpractice for 6 years, looking after individual surgeons and clinics. And I got into this through my previous role where I was working in medical devices and trying to talk to surgeons about medical devices. Okay. And they were often much more upset with insurance products than they were with any medical devices.
What kind of devices, actually, just before we get onto the insurance side?
Not much use to plastic surgeons. It was hip and knee replacements, then sports medicine kit.
Ah, cool.
So that was what I did. And then before that, that was 10 years in that space. And before that, I studied engineering.
Right.
And
where was that, in the UK?
That was in the UK. I was at Leeds.
Okay.
I did that. And then before that, before I went to uni, I was a ski instructor.
Oh, wow.
So, that's... it's come a long way and done lots of different things. And cool. This is And
where did you grow up? And what
grew up in Southwest London.
Okay.
Went to school in Southwest London.
Yeah.
I've now got an office in Hammersmith.
Right. So you didn't travel
and
far.
I live in Southwest London, so no, I can see where I went to school, and I can see the house my parents lived in when I was born from my office in Hammersmith. So I haven't gone too far.
Cool. Well, no, I mean, very nice to have you here. So tell me, I tell you what, let's talk about what you're up to now. So give us an overview that your average surgeon or your average clinic owner or potential clinic owner would want to hear as to what you do, what you can offer, and I guess also why we should come to you as opposed to some of the other avenues that are out there.
So we're a small firm in Hammersmith.
Yeah.
We use quite a kind of personalised approach. We know all our clients, and we can do everything for clinics, for individuals. So oftentimes, I know we're going to go into the covers that you've got here, but we're able to actually write everything. So if we just actually go down what we've done for you here, we've got a clinic, you've got assets in it, all of these are at risk, of course. And if we go back to actually why anyone is ever buying insurance, it's to move the risk of a financial loss off your own balance sheet and onto that of an insurer's. And to get your claims paid, you need to pay a premium. And that premium should, everyone's premium then generates enough reserves so that insurers can pay out claims. And it's not just a tick box. You actually want it to respond. And you don't have it for, if you bang a light and it's, one goes out and you're not going to put in a claim for that.
No.
You're going to, you've got insurance here for fire, theft, flood, for big things.
It's similar to your home, isn't it?
It's very similar to your home. Yeah, it's exactly the same. There's no real difference. So that's what we do on that side. And then the other side of it is obviously all the liabilities. The big one being medical malpractice, but also professional indemnity, which is other sorts of financial loss which don't arise from injury. And then basic covers as well. you need public liability.
Yep.
So this is if you were to have someone just have an injury here,
Yep.
And it wasn't related to negligence.
That's the same as, say, a supermarket or something, isn't
Exactly.
it? Anywhere
it's the same
where
as anywhere
a
which
member of the public can walk
has
in.
members of the public, and then you've got
Yep.
employers' liability here as well.
Yep.
And that's a legal requirement.
Yep.
And there are lots of surgeons who actually don't have any employers' liability.
And
they're
tell me
employing
about that.
staff.
What does that cover?
So that would cover a claim
Yep.
which is brought by an employee. So an example would be a slip on a
Yep.
floor, on a wet
Okay.
floor,
Right.
and an employee breaks her wrist,
Yep.
just a radius fracture, and then they're off work.
And
And
then
then and it's
Okay.
so the other well, that's one
Yep.
side. Then which is more likely with your nurses.
Yep.
But then even your secretarial staff have
Yep.
an employer's liability risk because they could get RSI
Yep.
or but it's also you can have a massive fine
Yep.
for not having it.
Right.
And more so.
And is this something that even an individual surgeon who employs a secretary should have in place?
They should do.
Yeah?
They
Okay.
definitely should do.
All right.
And it's not actually very it's not very expensive, for some secretaries.
Yeah.
With quite a, depending on the wage role, but it's not huge
Okay.
money. And
Okay.
most med mal insurers can actually tag that on.
Right.
And if they can't, it's very easy to write.
Sure.
So
Okay.
yeah, it's something worth considering.
Okay.
Um,
And so that's the cover we've got in place for the clinic. Obviously, you do my own malpractice, my indemnity cover as a surgeon, as an individual surgeon. Now, I mean, I've got my reasons why I came to you, but now I know that you are a broker who, as opposed to a specific insurance company. So why should someone like me or someone like us in this clinic choose you?
So we're a little bit different than some brokers.
Yeah.
So to buy medical malpractice, you have to go through a broker.
Yeah.
It's
That's just the way it is.
Yeah, it's not sold like house and car insurance where they're advertising to the public. It's what's called a specialist line of insurance.
Yeah.
And insurers wouldn't want to take on the risk of getting it wrong, and there'd be a conflict of interest if they were trying to write policies, which they were advising on it because they're always going to advise that their one is the best.
Yeah.
So that's not how medical malpractice is really written. So we're independent brokers.
Yeah.
So what that means is we're not tied to any one insurer, and what that means is we act only in the client's interests, not in the interests of our insurers.
Yeah.
Of course, we're trying to look out for our insurers.
And is that the case where some other, if I was to go to another company or not yourself, does that mean I'm not necessarily seeing someone independent?
But you might be.
Yeah.
You might not. I mean, there's lots of brokers out there.
Okay. That are not
there's
necessarily
lots of
independent.
competition.
Okay.
A lot of brokers will tie themselves to one insurer,
Right.
and then they'll.
And why do they do that? Is that because they have a deal for commission or something?
That will be part of it, but it will
Okay.
also be that it becomes for some of them it becomes easier, so they just offer one product.
Right.
Whereas what we do is we offer a range of we have access to a range of insurers. We go to see them. We know pretty much now which insurers will like what type of risk, because all insurers are trying to make money.
Yeah.
And much like surgeons who all think that their technique is better than the next surgeon, which is why they do it.
Yeah.
So insurers will be trying to bring the premium down as low as they can to ensure that brokers like me support and actually place business with them.
Yeah.
But they'll be trying to keep the premium as high as they can in order to make sure they've got adequate premium reserves to pay the claims. So it's quite a difficult balancing act, and they all have an underwriting strategy where they're trying to take in lots of premium and not have very many claims.
Yeah.
That's what they're there to do. They are there to try and make money. They are a business.
Yeah.
And they're not there to just they're not there to make bad underwriting decisions which lead to them losing money.
Yeah. And you, as an independent broker, I'm guessing, does that mean you're also in a position to sort of play them off against each other a little bit?
We would. I mean, that's what we're there to do, to get the best terms. But we'd more just look to get the best terms rather than actually playing off insurers, because as much as we work for the client, we have to be very respectful of our insurers, because without insurers we can't do business.
Yeah.
So we're not there to really
do one over.
Really do one over on them, because we need them.
Yeah.
They need us, and our clients need both of us. So
absolutely.
and it is kind of an ideal situation is when an insurer wants to work with an insured, so with a client.
Yeah.
and there's a really good relationship, and that's part of what we're here to do, to ensure that relationship works, and that because often, insurers have a different agenda to a client, and we sit in the middle, and insurers are underwriters who work for insurers. So underwriters are those who set premium, and they do that based on what we perceived risk
So
is.
I'll tell you what, let's just go even right back down to the basics. So just give us some definitions of underwriter, insurer, broker. Client obviously is me or the clinic.
Yeah.
But what are all the, go through a few of those glossary
absolutely.
terms.
I know it's and do stop me again, if you want to go over things, because we're all guilty of kind of, using the lingo that we use every day.
Yeah.
And then you kind of forget that not everyone speaks the same language. So,
Exactly.
So I'm a broker.
Yeah.
So I work for the client, which is you, and I try and obtain cover.
Yeah.
And cover would be insurance cover. So I go to an insurer to obtain terms and to get cover, and I might go to several insurers. Yeah. And insurers are exactly what you think they are, but there's different types of insurers. There's Lloyd's syndicates, which is written in London, and then there's other larger insurers called composite insurers, who are the ones who you will have heard of. The AXA, Aviva, Allianz, etc. And then you've got Lloyd's, and then at insurance companies there are underwriters who work there. So underwriters, effectively, their clients will be insured, but also the broker. So they are looking to. But they'll be dealing with us. We know who we want to deal with as broker, and a lot of that is still based on relationships. If we know that we get terms turned around fast by an underwriter, and they'll agree to where we think the premium should be, we end up doing a lot more business with them.
So an underwriter isn't someone who is insuring the insurance company. That's a
that's reinsurance. So an underwriter is a job.
Okay.
But also you will sometimes call an insurer an underwriter,
right?
And the word comes from a subscription market in London. So when you write a policy, and the first person takes signing on a bit of paper, which is the insurance policy, the second insurer would write under, and follow. So
right. Okay, I didn't know that.
No, and then they are guided by actuaries, who are data crunchers at insurers. Okay. And they will look at patterns and trends and provide guidance to where the underwriters should be pricing and setting risk, which is a different job. So underwriters will look at a risk, and actuaries will look at all of the risks. Okay. And then
how do you train to be an actuary? What are these
lots of maths?
Okay, so they're mathematicians. Okay,
yeah,
right.
They're quants,
statisticians.
Yes, statisticians. And then we're looking at patterns,
right?
And then you've got, inside insurance companies, you've then got claims handlers, who are separate as well from the underwriters. So you've got a broker who will deal with all of these people. But there should be some.
And the claims handlers are what type of people?
Claims handlers are solicitors. Right. In medical malpractice, that's what they typically that's their qualification. Okay. And they will be advising on how the claim is.
And they'll be working for the insurance company.
And they work for the insurance company inside. And then they'll also appoint solicitors, so firm solicitors, to defend you. So there's all of these different parties. And I would say what we do, and reason why most of our clients like us is we will liaise with the client. The client is then talking to us. The client knows who we are. And they're not dealing with someone they don't know. And we will then know the solicitors, the claims handlers. And then as we get towards a renewal, if there's a big claim, the underwriters want to know about it, and they'll want to know all the details. So we sit there and can hopefully get the right terms for our clients.
Because that's the great thing with me, is that I have your number and your email, and you're the one person I go running to, crying to, or whatever, depending on what's going on, or if I'm worried, rather than who do I call and where do I go. It's actually really quite nice to have.
And when there's a big practice, there's always something going on. It's not. With the med mal, I spend a lot of time explaining to surgeons, do not worry about notifying against your policy, because that is what it's there for. And the worst thing a surgeon can do is not notify, because once something's notified to an insurer, it's once it's accepted as a valid claim, they're going to pay it. That's what the policy is there to do. And if you haven't told an insurer something, you make it very easy for them to not pay the claim.
Not cover it, yeah.
And
that's very expensive.
People have sometimes had a bad experience with something like their car insurance, and they've just damaged a bumper, and they tell their insurers about it, and then they find their premium doubles.
Yeah.
Whereas with your medical malpractice policy, it is, there's a broker who's actually getting these terms for you, and there's an underwriter who we know, who's deciding on the premium. It's still looked at by humans, and you're not going to be penalised for notifying something. So
it's not, it's not true to assume that your premium is just going to go up because you've notified your insurer about lots of possibly little things.
Yes, get them in, and then once they're in, it's definitely that insurer's responsibility.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, since meeting you, I've become much more trigger happy when it comes to
notifying.
I think this might be something, this might not be something, but should I be? I think I should tell you about this, Tom.
It's not going to affect. Yeah. What affects premium? Every surgeon wants to know what affects premium and what the driver is behind premium. But if we go with the first thing, which is going to be claims, so that's going to be kind of a huge driver of anyone's premium.
Yeah.
But if you have got lots of notifications, which all show as zero quantum, so quantum is the amount which is paid out in a claim, and if they're closed and they show as having nil quantum, it's not of much concern to insurers. And they're quite glad to see it.
Is that almost favourable, do you think?
I like to see it. Yeah. I think it shows that an insured, a client, is taking their risk management seriously, and is if we see someone with a very, very large practice and in 15 years they haven't notified one circumstance, it's when you're dealing with the public, which you are, and we're not, it's impossible to go through life without having someone who's annoyed about something. It doesn't mean there's any negligence, or even alleged negligence, but if it's something which hasn't gone right, get it notified in. And it's another thing which a message, I guess, which I try and drive home is, for a surgeon, when something has gone wrong, or when there is a complaint, or it's looking like something is going to turn into a claim, it's not a usual situation for yourselves. It's not something you deal with all the time, because it's rare. So go to the professionals, go to those who you've paid to deal with this and actually advise, and stop you putting, so to speak, putting your foot in it and actually accidentally admitting something. The classic one is the surgeon who writes a letter and says, with hindsight, I wish I'd never done this operation. And then that's picked apart by claimant solicitors if it ever goes down that route. So, getting stuff checked over is definitely what you want to do. And you just then know it's, you tell your insurer about it. If they're not worried, they'll close the file after a bit. And if it does come up...
I guess the summary is, if in doubt, notify.
Yes.
Even if you don't think this is going to turn into a solicitor's letter or a claim. And it's...
The bottom line would be, if you think you're going to have to call me down the line for something on this, and if you think that I would be saying, why didn't you tell me at the time? Which I know is so hard.
That's a good time
that's the time.
If in doubt, I mean, it's a bit, I guess, for the surgeons watching, it's a bit like when you're on call at night and your junior team haven't called you about something in the middle of the night and you discover it the next day. You're there going, why didn't you tell me about this yesterday? I'd much rather, I didn't want to wake you up. I didn't want to waste your time.
No.
And we're there going, no, I'd rather you waste my time and it turns out to be nothing than you don't waste my time and there's a disaster waiting for me in the morning. So I guess it's exactly that. It doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to think less of that registrar who woke me up in the middle of the night. If anything, I think more of them.
No, it's exactly the same.
It's exactly
we want to know. Our job is to deal with this. Let us know.
And it's good to, I mean, I guess, this is probably the point that's worth making, because I hear it so often from colleagues, is just by notifying that there might be a problem ahead doesn't mean that your premium goes up immediately, automatically, just because you've notified.
No.
Even if I notify you 1,000 times this year about every single patient I operate on, that won't make any difference, provided it doesn't turn into...
If you were notifying about every single patient, there might be some questions asked at insurers.
So maybe don't go down that far.
The technical wording, which is everyone's policies, and it'll be pretty similar, is circumstance which may give rise to a claim. Now I know that is so broad.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's the trigger.
I mean, that's the trouble. I'd almost argue that by operating, that's a circumstance that might give rise to a claim.
Yeah. The threshold is pretty high, so it's a patient complaint. It's a known error.
Yeah.
So if you know that if it, classic example is kind of wrong site surgery.
Yeah.
You know about it.
Yeah.
Tell your broker.
Yeah.
It's not, there's no reason for an insurer not to pay because you made a mistake. That is what the policy is there to do.
Yeah.
And any correspondence from solicitors, even if it's not about you, because if there are requests for records and you think it's something like an injury claim against an employer or someone else, still just get that notified in. We see those all the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, any of those would meet the threshold. And if you're in doubt, that's why you've got a broker.
Yeah, absolutely.
Give me a ring.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what we're here to do.
Cool. And so okay, what about circumstances whereby I've done an operation. I guess what I was going to say was, in effect, I am notifying you about every single operation I do because you look at my numbers anyway, don't you? You know how many operations I've done last year. So I guess that, by definition, is me notifying you of my activity anyway, which you want to know.
So this is a different thing. So this is, I think, for where you're going here. So there's notifying circumstances which could give rise to a claim. So that's claims notification.
Yeah.
There is also a duty of disclosure. So this is a completely different thing, but all relevant, because if you haven't adequately disclosed the risk to your broker and to your insurer, your claim might not get paid.
Yeah.
So in terms of making sure that your volume is adequately reported and that the practice is that's for the broker's job to speak to the client and make sure they understand that. So we know exactly how many cases you've done. We know we know the practice. And we know you on very well because we've worked with each other for a long time.
And what about the situation where I've found myself tempted, where I have a patient that's unhappy, which happens. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to complain or that they're going to sue or send a solicitor's letter in. But I'm thinking, you know what? Let's try and head this off from becoming a claim. Let me just give them their money back. Okay. And now I know it's a no-no. I shouldn't just refund them without having spoken to you. And you're probably going to speak to the insurer anyway and their solicitor. But just talk me through why that's such a bad idea.
It's not a bad idea, actually.
Without speaking to you.
So the main reason is what we were talking about before.
Yeah.
So if you've got a patient who wants their money back, that is an expression of dissatisfaction. We'd say that hits the threshold for
might arise.
Yes. So that's step one. You've got an insurance policy. You want it to respond.
Yeah.
A request for a refund of fees is definitely that's a circumstance.
Yeah.
So the reason why you might not want to do that is it's not insurable. So you can't make a claim for that money which you refund to the patient. So if you think you've actually done a lot of work, you don't have to give that money back. Yeah. But not giving it back might invite a claim. Yeah. So at this point, you want to let your insurers know, and then if you want to give them the money back, often that makes patients,
it makes them go away.
And ultimately, you don't want to be, if you think that is going to meet the, if that is going to make the claim disappear or the claim never materialize, it's quite good use of money.
But more than that, the bottom line is I should not be refunding a patient without letting you know that I'm about to.
You shouldn't refund a patient.
Correct.
No, without just let your broker know.
Because that's also something that I've had in the past is, especially from the clinics. Yeah. And we would never say that here to any of our surgeons. The clinics kind of say, oh, well, we especially if the patient has come from a clinic or from a surgery
referring group.
Is that, well, we're just going to refund them and that'll make it go away. And to which I've had to say, no, please don't do that. Let my insurer know. You guys are presumably going to do the same, aren't you? And they might not be, I don't know. But yeah, definitely don't let somebody refund
No.
your fee, as it were.
No.
On your.
And that's a big problem. You
Yeah.
know, with clinics and referring groups, and
Yeah.
you know, if anyone is taking actions
Yeah.
on your behalf, but without your express
Yeah.
consent to do that,
Yeah.
It kind of puts you in a bit of a spot as a surgeon.
Absolutely.
So I mean, refunding fees is absolutely fine, but
do it the proper way.
Get it notified. And if refunding fees, you also probably want some help with drafting the wording from solicitors, which it doesn't stop the patient bringing a claim still,
sure.
but it does certainly help.
Yeah.
And you know, the wording will be, you know, this is full and final, and but solicitors will work through that.
Sure.
And that's what they're there to do.
Yeah.
And they're delighted to.
Yeah.
You know, they're there to do that, and insurers don't want it to develop to a claim. So insurers will also be very happy if it's stopped, because it's their money which will pay out if there is a claim. So
so on that point, if I'm again a bit trigger happy about refunding fees, okay, and I'm refunding, let's say 50% of my fees to my patients. 50% of my patients are receiving a refund for whatever reason, you know. Either I'm very generous or I'm actually getting lots of potential requests. Is that a red flag from your point of view for my next year's premium?
Yes, it would be.
Yes.
If you're giving half your fees back,
Yep.
That is
Yeah.
because that suggests half are unhappy.
Yeah.
Or not, even if they're not alleging any negligence. I mean,
so why is, in that case, let's say I'm refunding 1 in 100 patients or 1 in 1,000 patients, that surely must be having an effect on my premium then, maybe at 1,000th of the level that we were talking about.
it's just expected, especially for plastic surgeons.
Okay.
There is.
So what's the just expected threshold? Is that? I mean, I'm sure you don't have a number here, but I'm trying
we
to
don't.
get an
We don't
idea.
have a number.
Yeah.
It's more about an overall profile.
Yeah.
So insurers aren't going to penalise uninsured, and if they did, we would take quite a dim view of it for cautious notification of circumstances which then don't develop to become a claim. And there's also
and have you had to deal with insurers like that in the past, where you're kind of saying, guys, calm down, be kinder?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
And that's again another good reason for having a broker.
I mean, that's what we're there.
Yeah.
We are there to get claims paid.
Yeah.
We're there to write policies which will respond.
Yeah.
And when you do need it, you want the claim paid. Whether it's, you know, a few £1,000s here or there on the premium is less relevant than a claim which is paid or an unpaid claim. And as I said, insurers write contracts of insurance, and they want to pay out on valid claims. But where a claim isn't valid, they don't want to pay. And it is for what is an injury claim, which is what is brought against surgeons for medical malpractice. That it's you personally liable. So you know you want that. You want it covered. That's what we're here to do.
So I guess what we've dwelled on here for quite a while is notify, basically. If in doubt, notify. And then what other things would you advise? So you said that was the number one thing that you'd say.
That's the number one thing.
Yeah.
And then the golden rule.
Yeah.
And if you're doing that, you're
probably going to be okay.
You're fine. And then it's about understanding what your policy is there for.
Yeah. Okay.
And then if people are moving into actually running their own clinics, it's thinking about what risk do they want to take on for the surgeon's liability. Yeah. So whether you want to cover surgeons under a clinic policy. Yeah.
And that's possible, isn't it?
Very possible. Yeah. It makes it very easy for us. You know, we're just naming one extra person on a corporate policy.
Okay. Is that common in the UK?
No.
No. Okay.
It's not.
So should I mean, as a clinic owner, should I be thinking of offering all the surgeons that come here to insure them for the work that they do in this building? Is that a good thing to do? Where are you at with that at the moment in the UK?
We wouldn't say it's a good thing to do.
Okay.
And we wouldn't say that it's necessarily a good thing to do because you're our client. Yeah. And we, as much as it's very easy, you know, it's just naming an extra surgeon. Yeah. The issue is if the surgeon leaves, who continues to insure that work? If they take out their own insurance policy, then will you mandate that they and their new insurers take on that liability for that previous work? Or would you continue to pay a premium for that work? And especially if there's a few big claims, then they leave, and then you're sitting there.
Sitting with a higher premium.
With a higher premium every year. So it has to be a business decision on whether you want to take on that liability.
And I'm guessing I wouldn't, as a clinic owner, want to insure surgeons for all of their work, even if it's in another hospital, because I'm guessing it all gets a bit grey there, and suddenly how do they cover themselves?
You wouldn't want to be insuring surgeons for work they do elsewhere.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just, you don't really have so you don't actually have an insurable interest in that.
No.
So why would you?
Yeah.
It's
Because that's what I'm.
and you'd have no supervision over them. And if you are insuring them, you want to make sure that you have some sort of oversight over what they're doing.
So it's because I think in the UK that's possibly one of the reasons it hasn't taken off, is that surgeons work in more than one place privately,
yes,
as well as the NHS. But
it's also a very, I mean, it's an expensive region for claims. So the UK, this territory, this jurisdiction is very expensive, and the law does favour the claimant, unfortunately. And the claims are big, and they are quite frequent, and they are against the individual. So in that sense, I think most surgeons would probably want to maintain their own indemnity for that, because it's, if they get it wrong, it's their house.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's rare. And then it's a question of, I mean, it does throw up all sorts of questions as well. So if you've got a clinic which is employing surgeons to work there and insuring them, and then the clinic goes bust, and is no longer paying a premium, where does that liability lie, and what would actually happen in that eventuality?
Absolutely.
So the other thing to consider with clinic insurance and insuring surgeons on that is that individual surgeons' policies come with what's called run-off cover.
Yes.
So when you retire, or hopefully not, but if you die or you're permanently injured, the policy goes into run-off, which means you've got 21 or 25 years. It's a long time to notify new circumstances to the last policy which was in force at the time. But clinics and corporate entities don't retire. So there's no inbuilt runoff. So it's just one other thing to consider, and making sure that, and there's no bad answer, to this, it's how it's your business. How do you want to do it? We will give you advice, but ultimately we're not here to tell you how to run your business. We're here to manage your risk, and make sure that your policy is going to pay out in the event of a claim.
So moving on, you said, look, this is a litigious, or I can't remember how you phrased it a second ago. The UK
is litigious. I don't know if I said that. I think I said it's a bad region for claims.
Bad region, exactly. So where are we at now in the UK? Because I suspect most of our audience are going to be from the UK. So I've heard, and I don't know if this is the case, perhaps I've heard that the US seems to be calming down a bit because of the way that they're changing their policies and limits of liability for time to make claims, etc., etc. Where is the US? Is that true, first of all? And do you think we're going to follow?
I won't go into the US too much, and the reason for that is we don't write anything in the US. We're UK brokers, but it's also a very different market for insurance over there. And the reason for that is it's all regulated at state level.
Right.
So what happens in different states the law can be completely different for medical malpractice. So, the difference between being one state over can be a huge difference in
without
premium.
getting you to necessarily commit to, but if you pick on a state where things seem to have improved in terms of people are no longer, because I always thought of the US as people sue for anything they can just because,
it's culture.
And I have heard that that's calming down a bit now, or think that the rules are being changed a bit so that it is by state.
So
Is there a state where things, do you think they're getting it better?
I'll find out. But you don't practice there, and I don't.
I'm just wondering, because it would be great if that's the way we're going.
I don't think it's going to change anytime soon here, because of the way the law works, and the way that we have a situation where no government would want to be seen to be doing anything which stops patients getting the redress they want, and you would be seen as the big bad surgeon, and the patient is seen as the poor patient. Regardless of the truth, that's just the way that it looks, and because what claimants bring is an injury claim, it makes it very expensive, because it's not like other commercial disputes. So it's all to do with quoques. So this is one way cost shifting. So what this does is it shifts. So if a claimant brings a claim against you and you successfully defend it, you still have to pay your own defense costs. Now, if you were to be having a dispute with a surgeon in here or your landlord, and it goes to court, you would not pay your own defense costs if you're successful. That would be shifted onto the other side.
And why is that? How come it's different?
It's because it's an injury claim, and it's because...
And that's the way it is for injury claims,
is it? Way it is for injury claims, and it's to stop. I mean, the reason why it will be like that is because it's to stop people being disincentivized to bring a claim, because if you were bringing a claim against, say, a very big institution, like the government, like the NHS, or like big employers in the UK, if there was a situation where the bigger party, so a larger entity, just off the bat spent £2 million on solicitors, it would then scare the claimant to keep pursuing that, and it would be a bullying game. Right. So that is why it's written like that. But it doesn't really. It feels unfair when it's a surgeon.
I guess because the trouble is, from my point of view, I see that as being, well, we're virtually encouraging people to make claims. It's you've made it so easy that may as well. Why not?
It's also, we're not going to change. We're not going to change the law, and especially the law regarding injury, because it's obviously a big part of your lives. But in terms of the country and the legal system, med mal claims against surgeons in private practice and plastic surgeons is not going to be a huge priority for any government.
And do you think the situation is going to get, from the surgeon point of view, perhaps worse? Do you think we're still growing, as it were, in terms of the number of claims?
I think it should be quite stable. I can see the quantum going up. And that's likely to happen.
Is that the way it's been
inflation
for the last 10 years or so?
It has. And there's also, I won't go into it too much, but there's something called the discount rate. So if your listeners want to read into that, they can. But it's basically, it's how much the claim is inflated at the time of the time of settlement to account for inflation. And so that makes claims more expensive. But with the situation, I can't see the law changing anytime soon. Obviously, we have big test cases which change things, but they're not really about what you do. They tend to be big NHS claims, with huge quantum, but that's not where the claims are in
and
plastic surgery.
Those are steady as well, are they, generally speaking, as a nation?
It's actually quite interesting. There's for any interested surgeons, you can actually Google the NHS resolution annual report, and you can have a look, and you can see where the claims come from.
Well, maybe
I don't think it actually.
Put the link in the.
We can put that in
the podcast description.
It's interesting, but I don't think plastic surgery even features somewhere because it's not.
No, I'm just curious to see. I just worry that things are getting worse and worse and worse, and then by the time I retire, I'm not going to be able to afford any insurance, and that'll be the reason I quit. But it doesn't sound like it's going that way.
No, it doesn't. And the main thing is, you have insurance for something sudden and unforeseeable. You could argue that claims in plastic surgery are not sudden and unforeseeable because we know we're going to get some. But that's where we are, and we do expect it on plastic surgeons.
And if that's the case for plastic surgeons, that's one of the things I wanted to quiz you on. Should me and 10 of my colleagues or 100 of my colleagues who are similar, that I think, these are the good surgeons, the good guys and gals and whatever, can we somehow get together and insure ourselves as a group, and therefore, because we are in a better group, for want of a better word, can we somehow therefore bring our premiums down?
No, that's what we've already tried to do for you. So you could say yes. You can buying, and when there's 10 surgeons together, it brings the premium down. If you wanted to take a very high excess and share that, but we're already trying to get your premium to where we want it to be for each individual. I don't see any massive benefit in doing that. And if you're talking about going one further and actually setting up an insurance company, that would be a huge amount of admin. And I would say that most plastic surgeons wouldn't have the appetite for that. And they'd end up coming back and going,
bad enough setting up a clinic.
I don't
want an insurance company on my hands as well.
And I mean, obviously, the clinic insurance is a completely different
Yep.
different kettle of fish, and we talked about with property,
Yep.
which is, I mean, it's still a very real risk.
Yep.
There's, material damage
Yeah.
claims still going to happen. There's still there's theft, things go
Yeah.
wrong, water pipes break.
And then there's one more thing I wanted to ask you about, and again, you can tell me if this is just myth. So a plastic surgeon doing a rhinoplasty,
Mm-hmm.
say, or a plastic surgeon doing a breast reduction, breast augmentation, the premium that I'm going to pay for that case, as it were, versus an ENT surgeon doing the same operation or a breast surgeon doing the same operation. Are those guys paying the same premiums? Because what I hear is, well, the breast surgeons pay so much less than us plastic surgeons, it's not fair. The ENT surgeons pay so much less than we do as plastic surgeons, it's not fair. We're doing the same.
They do pay less,
Yep.
but not for the same procedure.
Right.
So if you've got a breast surgeon
Yep.
doing a BBA,
Yep.
they will be charged the same as you.
Yep.
That's how the rate will work.
Yep.
If you've got a breast surgeon just doing recon and no cosmetic work,
Yep.
They're going to have a different premium, but that's because of the claims profile.
Sure. And if you have a plastic surgeon doing this and that work, just recon work, it will be the same.
Yes, it brings
so
their premium.
So
will be
there's
down.
no difference, basically.
No,
Okay, fine.
There
That's
wouldn't
fair
be.
enough. Yep.
There wouldn't be, there shouldn't be, and that's
Yep.
why we ask you what you're doing.
Yep.
So we want to know, how many rhinos you've done, how many
Yep.
BBAs, how many.
Yeah. Okay.
The more we know, the more we can
Yeah.
get it right.
Cool. So, I don't know where we're at for time actually, but we're getting close, I think, to our 45-ish minutes that we aim for. Where do you see things going from here in the UK? So we haven't necessarily touched upon, the cowboy market, which I think is improving in the UK, actually. I get the feeling we're getting a handle on that, and the cowboy hospitals. We're not necessarily doing that with non-surgical aesthetics. There still seems to be a bit of a Wild West there. But I think for surgery, I don't know, we're steady at least. But what do you see the future of your business? Not as a general thing, and then I'll come on to you yourself. Where do you see you guys going?
I see there being a growth in smaller clinics.
Yep.
I think from having a lot of discussions with a lot of surgeons, I'm sure you've had the same ones.
Yep.
I guess 2020 was kind of the catalyst for a lot of people when they felt that they were being their business and their patients weren't as important as other
to the bigger hospitals.
Yeah. And
absolutely,
and then, it doesn't matter if the hospital thinks that cosmetic surgery is unimportant, but to you it's important because it's your business, and to your patients it's important because that's why they've come to see you. So if you're getting turfed out, I think it's a massive growth in the smaller clinics.
Yeah.
I see that being a huge growth area for me.
And do you see that as being riskier from your point of view? Is that something you worry about?
No, it's not at all. It would all depend on the type of work being done, but for cosmetic surgery, we don't. And I mean, we probably wouldn't want to work with someone who we thought was not doing things right.
I'm just thinking as a general thing, is that seen as a good thing by someone like yourself? If lots of guys like me are setting up our own clinics, I personally think it's a good thing. And I think if proper surgeons are setting up proper clinics, that's got to be a good thing rather than the cowboy sector. I'm just not sure whether I am more of a risk from your point of view compared to the middle to large size hospitals doing cosmetic surgery.
I personally,
Yeah.
and this might not be a view shared by my underwriters, but I like the idea of having a surgeon owner.
Yeah.
You have a vested interest in everything being run well.
Yeah.
And I mean, you're quite unique in that you're quite interested in the business side and the management side of actually running this place.
Yeah.
Getting involved in marketing, doing things like this. You manage all the staff. You're a CEO and a surgeon. Yeah. So I see that being a big growth area. I do think a lot of surgeons maybe haven't considered everything.
Yeah.
We quite enjoyed being on a journey with clients who contact us.
That's kind of what this whole podcast is about, really, in a way, is to help people with that journey. For those people who haven't considered everything, because quite often we don't even know what to consider.
No, but it starts from construction. Yeah, when we have clients call us up about MedMal, you're going, well, where are you? And they're going, well, we've just bought a building. Yeah, you're like, well, is it insured? No.
Yeah.
And normally the bank will be about to do it, and the bank will kind of have obviously mandated that they have insurance on it, and then kind of when you're due to exchange tomorrow, okay, fine, right, yeah,
absolutely.
And then they'll fit it out.
Yeah, not totally familiar, but not that unfamiliar.
No, and then they'll need contract works cover, so they'll need to insure the building, and they'll need special insurance called contract works, which covers you while you're doing the construction, and that's written on a different way depending on whether you're going in to a completely empty site or whether there's an existing building there, and you obviously don't want to be having a fire the day before practical completion, because that's when the most money has gone in, the most time has been spent getting it looking perfect like this, and that's the thing to consider. And then obviously you need to change those covers as you move towards opening up a clinic, and before you then start employing people, before you start having members of the public come in for treatment. And I mean, it's not my area, but you've also got all the hoops to jump through with CQC, and there's a lot of other things to think about. And we try and make our bit, which is having insurance in place, try and make it as easy as possible. And if our clients are saying that was the easy bit about setting up a clinic, we're very happy. Yeah, no, that's what I would say is working with you. It has made that side of things so much easier. We'll put, your contact details will be in the description bump for the podcast as well. Almost there. What's the future for you? Where do you want to go next? What's your the dream, the next episode or whatever? So you'll be glad to know. Yeah. And so all my clients who are listening that we're not selling. Yeah. So I love what I do. Yeah. I love dealing with surgeons. Yeah. Love dealing with clinics. I find it very interesting, which is something not many people in insurance probably say, or something that people who don't work in insurance expect anyone who works in insurance to say. But I love the dealing with the clients, and being able to help people out when they're stressful space. So I'm going to continue to grow the business. More of the same. Yeah. We're going to take on more staff. Yeah. We've already been hiring. Okay. How big are you, by the way? I don't know. I've never been to your office. So we're in Hammersmith in Lyric Square. And we are a team of 8 across all the classes that we write. But in the med now, it's really... How many surgeon clients do you have, roughly? Maybe you're not allowed to tell me that. Do you know what? I won't actually say. Okay, but it's growing. Okay. It's about double what it was last year. No, don't worry. I suddenly thought that must be commercially sensitive. No, I'll tell you in the pub. Fine. Ooh, I don't mind you knowing. Absolutely. Okay, cool. I know. I'll try and tell you later. Thank you. And then, my final question is, if you're going to go back to that school kid in West London, Southwest London, what advice would you give him, given what you know now and where you've ended up now? Is like, don't bother being a ski instructor, or make sure you do that for longer. It would be not saying, I'm not asking you to talk about regrets. But, and I don't really have any. I found it very interesting to switch roles, and to use what you've got from previously. So going from engineering into medical devices made sense. I was actually at Leeds, which has a kind of very strong medical engineering, mechanical, but it was very heavy on medical engineering. Okay. And then going into that, I've spent a lot of time in theatre, a lot of time talking to surgeons, understanding what how you do things. You're quite a unique bunch, and you're all quite similar as surgeons, but if you don't understand that, you're not going to get very far doing what we do. And then kind of seeing an opportunity in medical malpractice and going for it. And I think I'd say, go for it. But it was definitely everything I've done previously has led up to this and given me a great grounding. Absolutely. And every day I speak to surgeons, I learn something. Anything you would have done differently? No, I really don't think so. No, that's fair enough. No. Yeah, good. No, that's what? Almost everyone that's been through this podcast has said something similar, really, and I think I get it. I think number one, there's no point in regretting anything anyway. You can't do anything about it. If I wanted to do something different, I think I'd do something different. Yeah, exactly. I'm doing this because I like it. This is what you're happy doing. Yeah, same here. This is my life. Absolutely. I cycle into the office, have a nice life, and you can help people out when they're having a stressful time. And we're a business as well. We're doing this to make money. Yeah. that's why we're doing what we're doing, and the way we do that is by providing a good service, hopefully, and something which our clients like.
Yeah, it's lovely working alongside. I have to say, it has been very different, working alongside you compared to working with previous insurance companies, brokers, whatever. Just because it's so nice to have one personal contact. So
thank you.
So as well as working with that being, but it's always good to you're a good mate as well now. So it's and so. Yeah, no, thank you. I think we're kind of at time.
Excellent. Well, thank you
very much. Yeah, thank you for
having me in your clinic.
Yeah,
I love this clinic. Love coming down here.
Yeah, thank you for coming all the way.
Done a great job.
And thank you for watching, everyone. It's hopefully we will put some links to Tom's business in there. We'll also put the link in for the NHS database or whatever it is that you were talking about. So thank you, Tom. Thank you to Scottvale. Thank you to Santiago and 42 South Films behind the camera. Thank you for watching. See you next time.